Hello and welcome. My name is Jonathan with Utility Profit, and we are very excited to be a part of the Neighborly and Real Property Management approved vendor family. Now, if you're already familiar with Utility Profit and you're ready to get your account created, you can actually skip this video and go ahead and get started. This video's purpose is for those of you that aren't really familiar with our platform, what we do, or how it works. I'm going to guide you through our platform and the benefits for you, your team, and your tenants. So let's go ahead and get started. Now, there's going to be two parts I'm going to talk about. The first one is going to be the tenant side of things and what their experience is like when they go through the platform. And then I'll share with you the admin dashboard and the visibility that you and your team are going to have when it comes to utility connections. Now, when we think of the traditional move-in experience for tenants, it's always kind of been the same. The tenant gets approved, they're ready to get moved into that property, but that tenant is always going to have to set up at least one of these services, if not all of them, depending on their needs and the requirements of the property. So starting with city utilities, that's a given. They got to get electric, gas, water, whatever's required into their name, ideally as of the lease start date. Then you have internet, television, etc. And usually, tenants are kind of left to fend for themselves. They've got to figure out who those municipalities are, how to get those services connected. When it comes to internet, who's wired at the property? What are the promotions? Can I transfer service? And the list goes on from there. I've rented, I'm sure you have. It's a pain in the butt when we deal with all of this stuff. So we thought, why don't we just build a platform that's really easy to use and get it into the hands of the tenant so they know exactly what's required to be put into their name and the steps on how to do that, but also provide visibility back to the property manager. That way you and your team can see at a glance what all is going on at each property when it comes to utility connections. So that's what we've developed here at Utility Profit. And the implementation is really simple, especially since you use Appfolio. So the way that it works is wherever you're currently reminding tenants about setting up their utilities, we would just adjust some of the messaging in the utilities portion to say, something along the lines of, before handing over the keys to your unit, it's essential to get utilities put into your name. To streamline this process, we provide a platform through which you can do this. However it's worded in that messaging, the bottom line is there will be a link that the tenant will click on. And this link is all branded for your real property management company. So the tenant actually never sees or hears Utility Profit. It's all your familiar branding. And when the tenant clicks on that link, that'll take them to a screen that looks very similar to this. Again, your branding here, but it's really one area that houses all the information they need to know to get services initiated into their name. So for example, if I select internet, without having to ask you, without having to jump on Google, try to figure this out, call a bunch of internet providers in the area, I as the tenant can easily see, okay, great. AT&T and Charter Spectrum, in this example, are the providers that are wired at the property that I've been approved for. I'm able to compare the pricing, the speeds, the incentives, kind of whatever they've got going on. And whichever option makes sense for me, I just select that package. I input whatever information is required to connect that service, and that's it. So we have direct integrations into each internet provider that pings right over to AT&T, order gets processed, and then the tenant's given a confirmation that that's been completed. Now, when it comes to core utilities, what we've done is we've actually developed an internal mapping application. So we know exactly at the address who the providers are for electric, water, gas, whatever's required to be put into that tenant's name. So you don't have to be the one constantly updating or providing that information to your tenants. So when a tenant goes into their page and they select, electricity in this example, it'll let them know who that local electricity provider is. And it'll provide them the direct website that they can click on to begin starting up their services. Or it will also provide them the direct phone number if they'd prefer to call in. Now, when most tenants connect those core utilities, they're already used to having to email or text those confirmations over to their property manager. And then the property management team has to chase down confirmations, verify it's been set up. Instead of the tenant having to go through that process, they're able to easily input their account confirmations in here. There's also a way that the tenant can upload a screenshot from their phone that they have got those services put into their name. And when the tenant does that, that completes out electricity. And then the same goes for whatever else is required to be put into their name at that specific property. Now, if the tenant does have any questions along the way, We have live text chat support. We also have a phone number that the tenant can call. Our call center is here in Austin, Texas. We have a whole team that helps, almost like an extension of your team, answer any questions when it comes to utilities. So that way you and your team can get some time back in your day and not deal with those questions anymore when tenants ask them to you. Now, again, this is the tenant side. I'm going to go over the admin dashboard here next. So this is an example of an admin dashboard. Now you can notice that this partner, we do sync with AppFolio, which we can dive into a little bit later. So the AppFolio will sync daily, and you'll notice when it was last synced successfully within your platform. In the utility activation section in this platform, all the addresses are loaded here on the left, the tenant information, it auto sorts by lease start date. And then over here is where your utility confirmations will live. So you'll notice that an upcoming tenant here is moving June 14th. And instead of the leasing team having to go find those confirmations that they set up the electric, the gas, and the trash that are required to be put into their name through text message, through emails, the leasing team now is able to see at a glance, great, everything's green, I can release keys, they're good to go. You can also click on the address, and this will give you a detailed view of the company, the account confirmation ID, the day that that tenant has activated services into their name, and all of that will live right here at a glance. So it really gives your team an easy visibility on what's going on at each property when it does come to those utility connections. Now, there are two ways that our platform syncs with your AppFolio. The first way is we actually sync with your vacancies. So this RPM partner, Eclipse, that uses us, this is their vacancies page. So whenever we onboard and create your account, we'll automatically sync with this URL, meaning anytime a new property is loaded into your vacancies page, it'll automatically load down here into this synced listing section. So you never have to manually type in addresses. It all runs itself automatically for you. Once those properties begin to sync, over time is when our mapping application begins to kick in. So it'll start pulling who the electric, the gas, the water providers are at that property, and for internet as well. Again, so you don't have to be the one constantly updating and providing that information to your tenants. The only thing that you would have to do is our system knows who the providers are at the address. We just don't know what's required to be put into the tenant's name. So for example, at this property, if the tenant wasn't required to put water in their name or gas, you just simply click this disable icon, hit confirm, and that'll disable it. So that way the tenant's not trying to set that service up into their name. It does store on the platform, so it's not like you have to do it every single time. Again, the system knows who the providers are. That's just the only real quote unquote work that you and your team would have to do, is enabling and disabling what's required by the tenant. Our other sync with AppFolio is once the tenant is at the stage to begin setting up their utilities, they'll automatically get a text message to begin, they'll automatically get a text message for the link to start setting up their utilities. So what that looks like is when the tenant clicks on the link, it'll take them to your custom page right here with your logo, and they'll begin to search for their address, which will pull from your portfolio. When the tenant hits continue, that'll then take them to the page to begin setting up their services into their name, guiding them through what services are available and how to get them connected. And the last thing is our platform is completely free. There is no development fee because of our relationship with Real Property Management. There is no monthly software fee, and there's no fee to your tenant. And the big reason why that is because we generate revenue by some of the paid service providers. So for example, when the tenant connects internet service, those internet providers pay us, and then we actually pass a portion of that revenue back to you. That'll live in the summary section of your Real Property Management custom platform. On average, it's anywhere from $30 to $40 per tenant move-in, and it lives in there just like a Venmo account. As tenants connect paid services, deposits will trigger into your account, and you can transfer those funds however you'd like to transfer them into your company account via ACH. And it's really as easy as that. We've made it very simple from an implementation perspective. So next steps are to get your account created. Our onboarding flow with Real Property Management will walk you through exactly how to sync your AppFolio. We'll also provide you a custom template that you can use for your welcome emails with your custom real property management franchise link so your tenants know where to go to connect utilities. And then we'll walk you through how to add team members and a full onboarding video. Onboarding typically takes 20 to 30 minutes, so it's very quick. And at the end of onboarding, your platform will be activated, it'll be live, and you can begin using it today. All of us are very excited to be a part of your family and be a resource when it comes to all things utilities. If you do have any questions along the way, any hiccups, any hurdles, feel free to reach out to us. We're more than happy to answer any questions for you. Thank you again, and we look forward to being a valued partner of yours.